So this is a little bit about the specialization lines. I typically make the mistake, not really a mistake, call them trait lines. They used to be called trait lines, and for years, I played the game since it started. So sometimes I say trait line when really the game is now calling them specializations. So you go up to that hero panel, the sword and shield icon, and I go to the build tab over on the left. And here's what I have. These are my trait lines here, my specializations that I've chosen. And I try to choose them to benefit the weapons that I use, and with the Ranger, I like to have Beast Mastery to try to give some benefit to the pet, but that also has some weapon benefits in it as well. So I'm using Wilderness Survival, Marksmanship, and Beast Mastery. So Wilderness Survival, I'm sure a lot of people say, oh, you should never take it. You just want to use all damage, all damage. This is more of a defensive thing, but I like it. It's how I enjoy playing. And these are the minor traits here that you can't change. I kind of like them. So, you know, since you can't change them, you're stuck with them if you pick that trait line, that specialization. Sometimes there will be instances where I don't like the minors, but I like some of the traits that you select, so you have to put up with it. What you do here, as you have enough hero points, skill points, everything's changed since I leveled, so I might be a little off with this. I don't know the order that this happens in. You can just click them to change them. So I choose the ones that I like here, and since you can change them, it's really not, you know, there's nothing wrong with experimenting with them. I take this one here. You gain regeneration when you're inflicted with bleeding, poison, or burning. Also, while you have that regeneration, you take reduced damage. I kind of like that, especially with all the conditions in this game. Damage over time, they call it conditions in this game. Incoming disable, this one's shared anguish. Incoming disables are transferred to your pet instead. So there are some situations where it's impossible to dodge. You're either out of dodges, and it's usually when there's so many enemies around that you just can't dodge everything. It will, instead of knocking you down, it will knock down your pet, or disable your pet, daze your pet, whatever it is. I've been using that. This is good if you're using, right here, this is good if you're using like a short bow and sword. This is while you're above the health threshold, your strikes inflict poison. While your pet's health is above the health threshold, its strikes inflict poison. So if you're doing a condition damage over time, this sort of Ranger, that would be good. But I'm using a longbow and great sword, and they're not condition damage. So I could still use it. It would just add some condition damage into my direct power damage, but it doesn't seem that useful. This one would be also good condition damage while wielding a torch or dagger. You gain extra condition damage, and it also lowers their cooldowns. I only use a torch once in a while. If I use an axe, I use a torch in my offhand. I generally just keep it to this shared anguish. This one here, Empathic Bond, condition durations are split between your pet and you, the player. So you don't get the full duration of a condition that is placed upon you. It's split between you and your pet, so it only lasts half the time. And as you can see, you can switch through all these things just with a click. You can also change the entire specialization, the entire trait line, after you have everything unlocked. So I've got everything unlocked, but I just stick with this. I like this. I like the build I have. And then just there's another little thing here. I've chosen Marksmanship because this really helps longbow. Neat kind of passive there. This says Hunter's Gaze. Gain might when you strike a foe based on their health percentage. Might helps you do more damage, and it tells you the percentages. You know, you gain more stacks of might the lower the enemy's health is. This here, Signet of Stone, I don't really care for it. lesser call the wild, but I like this one. I like this one myself. Here's one. Signets grant fury to nearby allies when you actually activate a signet, and signets who gain reduced recharge. It's always nice to have a lesser recharge, but this is very useful to me. Farsighted. Projectiles fired by ranger weapons deal increased damage. Alright, so this helps any kind of bow, really. Damage is further increased when foes above the range threshold, so it tells you that the range threshold is 600. So that encourages you to be at long range when you're using your bow. Moment of clarity. This is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just like this. There's Predator's Onslaught. You and your pet deal increased damage to disabled or movement impaired foes. I like this. Lead the wind. While wielding a longbow, your attack speed is increased and your arrows pierce. Longbow and harpoon skills, harpoon's underwater weapon, have lower cooldowns. The skills recharge faster, so it means that they have a shorter cooldown. This I just find really useful. So the arrows go through enemies and hit other enemies behind them. The attack speed is increased, and you have a shorter cooldown. So this works well with the longbow. All of this does. Then I have Beast Mastery. I like this because it benefits the pet. The pet is so much a part of the ranger. They changed. It used to be able to make better builds in the past. Now they limit what you can do. I like this. Go for the eyes. Nearby foes are blinded by beast abilities. I do like that. Apply. Okay, so this is good if you use a lot of shouts here. I like this. I like this here because you get a shorter. Now you can't choose this. This is chosen for you, but this gives you a shorter cooldown on your pet swap in combat. I find that really useful. These I love these two, and you can't pick both. This is what I choose: two-handed training, which I use a greatsword. The damage is increased, and the cooldowns are decreased. And when using the greatsword or the spear underwater, attacks have a chance to grant fury on hit. It's nice. It's nice. This I always liked because your pet recovers health each interval, so it helps them heal in combat. I do like it just because I want to do everything I can to keep my pet in good shape. But I can't have both. I used to be able to take both. They changed it. So I go with this because it helps my weapons. And then here, Beastly Warden. I've tried it. I don't really... It's kind of cool. Makes your pets taunt. You get quickness when you swap weapons. That's okay. I sometimes use an axe, so sometimes I'm going with this right here. This gives lesser cooldown on axe skills. Gain ferocity while you're wielding an axe in either hand, and I think it's the skill 3. I forget. I haven't used the axe in a little while now. Turns into an AoE. So everything I do here, I pick to benefit my weapons and benefit my pets, basically. And that's how I go about choosing it. If I were to use a short bow, the ranger can use a short bow. I would most likely take another trait line, another specialization that would help short bow more than that, and also sword. Because sword is a good match for short bow because they're both condition damage. The one-handed sword, that is. But this matches the weapons that I like, and the fact that I value the pet a lot, and I want to keep the pet in good shape. So that's pretty much it. I believe anyone can do this now. Just change these traits on the fly. You used to have to go to a trainer and pay gold to respec. And a long time ago they changed that, and I think that applies to everyone now. In the past it was you had to buy the game to play, and then it went free to play. I don't know if it was buy to play. I don't know if this now applies to everyone if they did not buy the base game. I don't know. I assume it does. I'm hoping it does because it makes it a lot easier for players. It lets you experiment a lot and gives you a lot of flexibility. And I imagine they do because you can't go and pay for resetting your skills anymore. So I think it has to apply to everyone, just like it does to me now. But I leveled these characters in 2012 when the game started. So anyway, that's using the builds here. You can also just just as another example here, you can actually change. See, like down here, your utilities. I can go and change my utility slots down here. You can also do it up here if you want, but I don't know. I always do it down in my actual skill bars down here. And that's about it. Oh, just one other thing here. This shows you your weapons, and if you mouse over them, you can see what they do. The second tab, these are utilities, healing utilities, elite skills, and this will list all of your specializations here and the traits. I don't really like the way they have this layout now. I think they did it better in the past. But for instance, here's skirmishing, and if I click here, where is skirmishing? Skirmishing is here. So that's what I would click to equip the skirmishing specialization, and this just gives you a description of everything that's in the skirmishing specialization. So that covers it, really.